Yeah. All right, some things. Hello. Instagram's going. Oh, there we go. Hey.
Yay, we're live.
We are live. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How y'all doing in the neighborhood?
Can you see yourself? Oh, you can't see it? It's stuck on my...
Hello, everybody. Come on into the conversation. Let's see. Yep. Hello. Let's see who's coming on in.
Okay. You can't. I know. I'm sharing it to my newsfeed.
Let's see what's going on here. Hello. Give people a second to come on in. Let's see what's going on here. Alrighty, give people a few moments to come on in. Oh, there we go. What in the world is going on here? As y'all can see, it's about to be very comical tonight.
Absolutely.
I have one of my favorite human beings here with me tonight.
Aww.
Just give a few moments, give people a chance to come in and conversate. And then we'll get started. Yeah. So for most of you who have been paying attention, tonight we're going to be discussing mental health awareness. As some may know, this month is not only just Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it's also Depression Awareness Month. So we're going to have conversation tonight that a lot of people don't like to talk about, which is our mental health. So we want to bring that conversation up because it is very important and very vital in our communities, in our families. A lot of stuff that we don't like to discuss, a lot of stuff we just like to overlook and just call it, well, that's just how that person is. And it's not necessarily just how they are. Some people actually have issues going on that needs to be addressed. And we want to bring awareness into that. And so today, I've decided to bring a special guest. Hint, her right here. This is my very, very good friend, Miss Katrina Edmonds, who is here, and I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself to you guys, to tell you what it exactly she does, so that way I don't jack it up. But allow her to tell you who she is, and then we'll get into the conversation. So, hi, Trina.
Hi.
Yay, Trina's here, everybody. I left her a long time.
Yes, we've been friends.
For a very long time.
A very long time, 15 plus years.
Yeah.
So my name is Katrina Edmonds. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am starting my 21st year as a therapist. It's been a very interesting ride. The entire time. I do own my own practice here in the city of Philadelphia called Be Set Free Counseling Ministries and Education Center. Right now we are completely telehealth based practice. Hopefully that'll change in the new year. Some other stuff about me. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a clinical supervisor, so I help train new up and coming therapists, as well as working with seasoned clinicians out there, just helping them with some of their supervision needs. I have a nonprofit that I'm working on getting open. So stay tuned for that information. I am a friend, I am a sister, I'm a niece, I'm a daughter. I am active in ministry.
You're just a lot of things.
I do a lot. I do eventually sleep. It's not a lot, but I do eventually sleep. And I am also a doctoral student.
Yes.
Yes.
She's about to be doctor. Okay. About to get them good old PH to the D's. So, Miss Katrina, with everything that you have going on, I know you have been dealing, like you said, for 21 plus years in this particular area. And one of the things that I found myself, I've been through therapy before, and me and you've had many conversations, and Trina has talked me clean off of not swinging on some people and doing some crazy stuff. So, thank God for Trina, y'all. Okay, thank God for her. She is sometimes bring a little bit of sense to my brains, but sometimes. One of the things that I find that is very, very common is that people think they're the same, but they are not. Can you explain the difference between therapy and counseling?
Sure. Now, I'm going to level set with you guys. When she told me she was going to ask me this, I said, ooh, you really sure you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to hurt some people's feelings as I answer it. She told me, go ahead and hurt y'all feelings. So I'll be gentle, I promise. So I'm going to start out saying that I'm biased. One of the biggest differences to me between counseling and therapy is that your therapist only obtain the title of therapist with the educational investment. Like they have literally invested time and money into learning a specialized set of skills in order to provide mental health treatment that is grounded in something. And for me, that's one of the biggest differences between counseling and therapy. So let me give you an example. We could talk about, oh, I have a counselor. Okay, so what type of counselors do we have? Camp counselors. We can have counselors that, it kind of reminds me of, how when we're at church and we have the Nurses Guild, and when you actually ask how many of them are real nurses, it's usually 0. That's kind of what it reminds me of. So a lot of times when people think about counselors, and trust me, I have run into some phenomenal people that I would consider to be counselors. We think about it from the perspective of wisdom and advice. That's how we think about counselors. Now, to this point, you have licensed professionals that have counselor in their name. But remember what I said initially. They have invested a significant amount of time and money into their education so that they're grounding their information that they give and the work that they do with people in some type of theoretical framework. And so most of them would tell you, I am more than just a counselor. I've actually put the work in.
Gotcha.
So like when you think about even your licensed professional counselors, they got to tell you they professionals so that you don't think it's just like Susie from around the corner giving you advice or Aunt B from up the street giving you advice. And so a lot of times, even the word talks about that we need a multitude of counsel, of wise counsel. And so people just think that's all that is necessary. But there are some things that we go through, just situations, life, what have you, where it takes a little bit more than just good advice to get you to that next place, to heal some of those wounds. And so that's when therapy comes in. And so therapy is going to have that person go down deep and start to work out some of those things that have been troubling, and also start to connect the dots. Because it's not enough for me just to say, okay, you're done, you're not depressed anymore. What's to stop it from happening next time if I don't give you the tools? If I don't start to teach you and show you what actually helped this to come about. And then how do we do something different going forward? So that's kind of how I would talk about it. I will say I did talk to some of my students this week, and I asked them that, and I loved some of their input, and they were talking about how counseling felt more general, whereas therapy felt more specific. It was longer term. Some of them also told me that they felt like therapy dove deeper into what is actually going on and what contributes to what's going on, as opposed to counseling felt very surface. And even in today's times, counseling has a competitor or a cousin, and I'll call it life coaching. And the interesting thing is I'm a certified life coach as well as a licensed therapist. So there's a difference. And so even when we're talking about counseling versus life coaching versus therapy, there are three different veins or
Right.
three different lanes that people can travel in. It's not that any of them can't help you, because all of them do help.
Right.
But they help with different things and they help at different dimensions.
Gotcha.
And I think it's essential for people to understand which ones you need which for. So like, if I am a life coach, I can be a business life coach, and I can help someone identify the reasons why their business is not growing, and then get them the very real intangible steps to go ahead and move there. I'm not touching nothing emotional. I ain't doing none of that. And so even when you're in training for life coaching, they will tell you the moment that you hit some real deep mental health issues, you have hit your scope of practice. You now need to refer out.
Right.
And so same thing with counseling. You know, the counselors may get a little bit more information. One of the other things, the reason why I said I was biased, is that counseling tends to be very individualistic, as opposed to some of the stuff that I do. Here's my bias, because I'm a family therapist and I'm trained as a family therapist. I'm trained to think systemically. So the way that I see the world is very, very different. And you're not going to always get that in just regular counseling. So it widens the perspective of how we see the problem.
Got you. So, to that effect, and so what would you say are some of the misconceptions of seeking therapy that keeps people from getting help?
Oh man. Okay. So money. People think that you have to be rich to seek services. That's not true. People think that only those that are crazy need therapy. That's not true. That's not true at all. People think that you have to wait until the bottom has fallen out before you get there. Like something has to be wrong before you engage with a therapist. That also is not true. People think, this is when we get a little rough. People think that Black people not supposed to go to therapy because we don't talk to people about our stuff.
Because of that old saying that they used to teach us, what
happens in the house, stay in the house. Don't believe that.
Not at all.
Because it's all the stuff that happened in that house is why you actually need to see a therapist.
Absolutely. Say that one more time for the people in the back.
For the people in the back. It's the stuff that happened inside of the house is often the reason why you actually need to talk to somebody outside of the house. Right. Because, you know, being wounded is real. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is that, you know, 6 of us could be in a room. There could be a shooter that enters the room. You know, none of us got shot. But that doesn't mean that we all had the same experience of that shooter being in the room.
Absolutely.
And so some of us may be able to just be like, okay, now that the threat has gone down, I'm okay. Other people may have been completely traumatized differently in that room. And they need someone, a safe person. And this is a way to think about therapy. Everybody at some point in their life needs a safe person in a safe space to go ahead and empty out and just bounce ideas off of. That is what therapy is. It's not you sitting on my couch. I don't have a couch. I've never had a couch in my office. I don't want a couch in my office. I don't want you that comfortable. We here to work.
Right.
We are here to work. I come alongside of you in the journey to get you to a different place of healthy and whole.
Right.
But I do not do the majority of the work. Why? Because I'm not the one that's going through the changes.
Right.
My clients are the ones that are going through the change, and they are the expert on them. And the reason why I say I come alongside people is that I lend my expertise on how to get it done, but they lend their expertise on who they are. Right. And together we work to get to a common place of them being able to do life in a healthier and better way. That is what therapy is.
And see, I like that. I like how you said that, like walking alongside someone, because I remember when I was going through therapy, that's what I felt like my therapist was. He was licensed in his field, but he walked out the journey with me in order for me to get the healing that I needed. And even, like you said, I've been in a situation where a shooting has happened and everybody in the room, the shooting, what happened that day affected everybody differently. To this day, me sitting I'm more traumatized and my anxiety is more higher in the church than I am outside of the church. because the incident happened in a church.
Mm-hmm.
So being that it happened in a church, now every time I'm in church with a crowd of people that's over 2 or 3, I'm like, okay, where's the exit? Because I need to be able to, because I'm now, my mind, as they would say, PTSD, I've now been traumatized by a situation that now has made all of my spices just on heightened sense anytime I'm at a funeral where it's a lot of people. Of course, funerals have a lot of people.
Funerals have a lot of people.
But I'm like sitting by a door or somewhere I can see an exit. So that that makes the world of difference, like you said, where how everybody sees a situation differently. So with that being said, so how has the lack of awareness in mental health affected the minority community? Because I remember you saying that sometimes for the minority community or African American community, we look at it like, oh, we don't need therapy. No, we do. We do. Because we see people, quote unquote, with that stereotype of that you have to be rich to get therapy. No, everybody needs therapy. Everybody needs somebody they can bounce stuff off of and that they can talk to in a safe place.
That safe place is one of the biggest things. How to answer your question. So I think, okay, you said lack of mental health awareness. The first thing that has to happen is where we started, which is people have to actually understand what therapy is. And the notion that therapy only happens when a larger institution is involved, like, oh, did you do something wrong? Is that why you have to go to therapy? That has to go away. I think the notion, again, that crazy people, or the notion that we just have to accept whatever cards were dealt and we can't do anything extra beyond that, we're not allowed to be healed. We always have to operate as the walking wounded, I think is a significant thing. And it's sad because a lot of times in our community, we wear walking woundedness like it's a badge of honor.
And it's so not.
And I'm just like, I can't tell you how many people, and I honestly, I've been in this situation. I mean, I'm a therapist and I've been through therapy multiple times because, it can be a heavy burden to help people through their stuff. And so I recognize that, sometimes I needed help, not because I kept carrying their stuff, but some of the other stuff that I hear would trigger my own stuff. And I needed to be well in order to continue to help people.
Absolutely.
So I think some of the biggest things is helping people over being stigmatized about seeking treatment and feeling like it means that something is inherently wrong with them because they engage in this process. Therapy has to be normalized. And it's not just in the African American community, it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
Therapy has to be normalized. But when you asked me this earlier this week, I started thinking about, I was just like, but you know what? The truth of the matter is, and we're just going to talk about for the African American community for a second, we treat doctors the same way, we treat dentists the same way. Any profession where we feel like we are not in a position of power, we tend to treat them like I got to avoid them at all costs unless my arms get ready to fall off. And even then, I don't really want to seek it. And it's such a sad place to be. I mean, it shows our resiliency, but there's a place where it's just like, what messages are you communicating to not only your own generation, but the generations that come after you about how to live a whole and healthy lifestyle?
Right.
And so part of that is doing preventative care as opposed to always being reactive. And I think reactivity is something that we've always had to do because it was about safety. And it's not that it doesn't continue to be about safety, because it is. But I think what people are starting to understand is that I can't, nor do I want to continue to hold this on my own. And my aunties and my grandmothers, they have done the best that they can. They've given me a safe place to be able to say, I'm stressed out. But they don't have the tools because they have not been trained to help me be able to work through it. And I think that is some of the what contributes to the lack of mental health awareness. The fact that we don't feel like it is accessible in our communities. This is another thing that I think sometimes is hard when you are desperate to find a therapist that looks like you and everybody you keep seeing doesn't.
Right.
And so sometimes it's being able to ask yourself, will this stop me from being able to access treatment if I have to do treatment with a clinician that is a different ethnicity than I am? Now, I will say that there are a whole host of unicorns like myself that are out here, and we absolutely want to be able to talk and walk and go through that with you. But it's not to say that somebody of a different ethnicity does not have the ability to see you and to hear you and to help you and be authentic and genuine in their help. It does require a level of trust and a level of vulnerability, and I think that is the other thing that has impacted us as a community is, this ability to be vulnerable to another level. Like,
Right.
I'm already being vulnerable because I told you I'm not okay. Now you want me to be vulnerable and let you in my stuff. And I think sometimes that is a very difficult thing for all communities to do, but especially African American communities where they're constantly questioning, am I safe?
Well, that's the thing. Now, and that speaks to a lot of things of what people of minority communities deal with. Outside of that, the underlying trauma that is not dealt with, and that the world has made them feel unsafe in this world to be even vulnerable to get help. So, vulnerability in itself is a scary monster to some. To be vulnerable, and some people can't even be vulnerable to their spouses, or even can't be vulnerable to themselves. Like, to say, okay, if somebody asks you, like, something very common, how you doing today? Especially if you're talking to church folks, they'd be like, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored in the Lord, and I'm good. And then you like, well, your whole house is crumbling, and your house burned down yesterday. You lost your loved one, and everything around you lost your job, but the Lord is still good. No, just be honest with yourself in that moment. I'm not okay. Today is not a good day. Guess what? My heart is broken. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where I'm about to live. Be honest with yourself, because I think if you be more honest with yourself, then you can free yourself. Because as long as you keep living in this facade of, oh, I am good, everything is well, I'm blessed, but yet, you got eviction notice. Okay. Or your car's been repossessed. But everything is okay. Everything is okay. No, it's not. It's not. And we got to stop lying to ourselves. I think that is extremely important. Like, when I, was writing the book, one of the very trying things of getting it done was that I had to be honest with me in order to find who me was.
True.
And unpacking all of the things from childhood up until current. Now, that don't mean that the journey has stopped, that I've mastered life. Absolutely not. Life is not mastered. Not 1 ounce of it. But I've learned better tools on how to move forward. Now, granted, in another chapter, I might have to write a second book like, yeah, I'm still processing through.
Okay. Y'all heard it. She says she's writing another book. Y'all heard it, right?
So it's like, with all of the things that we deal with, that we got to get rid of the different stereotypes and stigmas in our mind of what we assume it will be. Because having that free place of have a conversation and be able to bounce your thoughts off of, tell people it's somebody who's unbiased. Like, they don't know you. They met you. You sit down. That's about all the information they have of you. Besides the intake information that they take, your name, where you from. Okay. And then anything from there is what you talk about. So my thing is, don't go to therapy and don't be willing to be vulnerable and honest, because then you ain't going to get nowhere. You can't heal if you're going to sit there and they ask you, well, what do you want to talk about? None.
Well, so some of it is, I don't really know if most people understand what it means to be vulnerable. And if you don't understand what it means to be vulnerable, it's going to be very hard to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the place that we start. Like, is there a willingness or a desire to live a life that functions more healthy than where you are and what you do now.
Right.
And that's the first level of awareness. And then we get to this place of, do you understand what it means to let someone see you? And that's where vulnerability comes in. And if you're not there, then let's talk about what has happened when you have attempted it in the past. And so sometimes the beginning of therapy is for when we're training students, we talk about this joining process. It's like, when you first, because I'm going to put it in non-therapy terms, when you first meet a new friend, you be like, I don't know, you all right? And so talking about mine, so we're going to talk about mine for a second. So when she first meets people, she puts them through all types of paces to figure out if they okay. And it like lots of tests and trials. And even when you think you okay, you probably still not okay. You might be able to find out what city she live in, but you're not going to know the neighborhood because she got to put you through a few more tests and trials. So the joining process is very much like that. Like, you have a right to, when you're sitting with your clinician or sitting with your therapist, to figure out if you feel comfortable with them. Because you're not going to open up and you're not going to be vulnerable with someone that you're not comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because we do this in our families. We do this with our family of origins. Like, or we do this, you said church, we do this at church. Like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. Why did you tell them you were good? Because you don't trust them with your information.
Absolutely.
You don't trust that if you actually are truthful, that they won't look at you side-eyed and be like, oh, what's wrong with her? She's supposed to be the deacon. She's supposed to be, the first lady. How she got problems? I thought she was blessed. Just because I have an issue and I'm not doing good doesn't mean that I'm not blessed.
Hello.
There are oftentimes, many times, more often than not, that God will place people in your life to come and assist you because He knows that you're not okay. And you need that safe space. And we don't necessarily always look at it that way because we have to walk around like, I'm good. Nothing's going to impact me. A lot of us won't even cry by ourselves out loud because it's too much for us to handle ourselves and handle the reality. There's a lot of people that struggle with looking at an image of themselves in a mirror.
Absolutely.
When they look at themselves in the mirror, they are disgusted, they are embarrassed, they are shamed, because they don't like what they see and they don't know what to do with it. And I would say if that is the case, that is definitely a time to go to therapist because you have to love you. How is anyone else going to truly love you? And how are you going to know that they love you if you don't love you?
Right.
What is your standards?
Right.
And my standards can't be based off of Jim Bob over here and Shirley over here. I need to know what I am worth. I need to know my own value. And sometimes during therapy, we start to work that out. Because what I accepted when I was 20 looked completely different when I was 30. Why? Because I have a different relationship with myself.
Absolutely.
And so when we're talking about, I said earlier in the conversation that you don't have to wait till the bottom falls out to enter into therapy. Things could be going well and you just decide that, I want to do preventative work so that as I'm moving into new spaces and places, I have the necessary tools to go ahead and navigate that in a very, very successful and healthy way, as opposed to, my leg is over here, my arm is over here, my eyeballs over here, my brain is like everything's overloaded. I got the eviction notice, I just got fired, all this other stuff, waiting for basically having the sky is falling moment and then being upset that the process to put everything back together again is going to take a minute. That's the next thing. Progress, growth is a lifelong thing, and people always want to rush the process because they are uncomfortable with the uncomfortability of doing it. And it's something that I've said it to my own apostle, even about myself. I said, at this point, there are certain things even in my own life where I'm just like, I have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in the uncomfortability of being uncomfortable. I literally have to be okay with just sitting in a space and place where I know change is happening, but this part of the process is difficult.
Right. So let's get to this last question. So with you talking about preventative nature, so what are some of the effective ways and actions that we can take to do preventive measures? In a short answer.
I think first of all, it's just being very, very honest with yourself. I think it's validating the people around you. If they say, or if you can see there's something's going on, don't approach people with judgment.
Right.
That is that is an effective tool. I would say begin to understand what's in your community. One fast little thing is look on the back of your insurance card. On the back of your insurance card is the mental health number. It's called Behavioral Health Services on the back of your insurance card. Call them. If you have an employer, you probably have EAP services, employee assistant services, which will allow you or afford you typically 2 to 3 free sessions to decide if you even like this therapy process, and then you might be able to continue with them. There are tons of community-based agencies throughout the city. There are tons of professional-based. There are tons of educational, like Drexel, LaSalle, Chestnut Hill. All of them have some type of counseling center that most people from the community can access. You don't necessarily have to go for the people that are charging $200-300 an hour. You can go to the ones who are learning and wind up spending usually under $50 in a session for your session. So I would stop the excuses that it's not reachable, it's not attainable. It is like we do, and we make time for what we want. Absolutely. We will stand in line 2 days for an iPhone, but you have a problem with being on hold 30 minutes to help fix the mental health troubles that have been plaguing you for 20 years. Jesus. Where are your priorities? And that's the thing. Make your healing a priority. Stop walking around like the walking wounded and wearing it like it's a badge of honor.
Listen, it sounds like we might need a part 2 to this matter, because I feel like there's so much more to unpack about this conversation. And first, let me say thank you so much, Trina, for coming and having this conversation, because I think it's so needed for people to hear. And I'm not sure if people had questions. If you have questions that you want to ask right now, we're going to take some time just to hear what it is that you may want to know, or some questions you may have about the conversation we just had about mental health. Again, Trina has her own practice. So she's in Pennsylvania. So you're not licensed in New Jersey, are you yet?
I'm just waiting for New Jersey to stop playing and reissue my license.
Okay, so she's only right now locally in Pennsylvania, but she soon be back in New Jersey. But like she said, you can find it on the back of your insurance card. There's places everywhere. You just have to make the time and the effort to go find. The same way you go Google to find out the latest gossip and who album done dropped and who video done went viral. Take that same energy and get some help. Okay? We all need it. I need y'all to go get some help. Because if we get help, then not only will you help yourself, you'll be better for yourself, your family, your friends, and your community around you. And that's what we want to promote. We want people to be healthy in who they are.
Investing in yourself.
There you go. Don't just invest in yourself at the nail shop and hair and beautification on the outside. We need to invest on the beautification on the inside of us. That's vitally more important than worried about your lace front being laid. Okay? Because if your lace front's laid and yourself on the inside is still filthy, that lace front's going to lift after a while. Because it ain't that much makeup and hair and glue to keep it pinned.
This is why we don't let her out. We don't let her out. I'm sorry.
See? I just want y'all to know, we're going to be vulnerable and we're going to be honest with you on asking my why. It's not about me, because like I said, in order for me to write the book, and for those who don't have it yet, I suggest you get it. Trusting God in this process. Yes, it was a process, and this is a process that we're constantly going through and dealing with. But I had to unpack and deal with everything. Like she said, looking in the mirror was a very hard thing at one point for me, to look at yourself in the mirror without makeup, without your hair being right, and look and be honest with yourself and see all of your flaws. Not only that, but sometimes it means standing in front of a mirror, looking at yourself butterball naked, and being honest with yourself and seeing all of your flaws. Because if you can't deal with that, then it's going to be hard to be able to want someone else to love you. A lot of you are seeking for relationships, but how can you want somebody to love you in a relationship and you don't know how to be loved or know what that love looks like for you when you don't know what love is? So this is why it's so important that we take care of us, that we take care of our health, that we take not only care of our mental, our spiritual, and our emotional side, but take care of you because you matter at all times. You matter. I don't know. Let's see. Was there any questions going on out here? Did you see any? Because I really wasn't.
Everyone just wants a part 2.
Oh, everybody wants a part 2. You got it. Part 2. We'll let you know when part 2 again, because you guys have asked. We'll do this once a month. Like I said, we might have some guests some month, and some months we might not. But I will let you know. Of course, we're going to do this the third Wednesday of every month so far moving forward, just to be able to bring some great things to you, positivity to help you, because I want everybody to be good in their process. I want everybody to be healthy, whole, and free in their process, in your process, and to be able to show up authentically as who you are, not as some fake agent. We don't want the imposter you. We want the real you to show up. I think that's very vital. If we show up as our real selves, we'll get a better response than out here being a fraud. So thank you guys so much for joining tonight. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you share, love this thing. Let everybody know, even in the replay. I want you to share it. Let somebody know, because this is something that really needs to be discussed, not just this month, but every day. So whatever you do, I pray you have a blessed evening. And again, thanks to Katrina for stopping by and joining in the conversation. So guys, have a good evening. Love you guys. Bye. Big white button in the middle. Hi.